Renee has the day off, so I'm the one escorting Licia on our trip into town today. We're supposed to pick up ingredients from various shops and then head back to the mansion. It's a pretty straightforward assignment, and Licia does this particular task so often that I don't anything can go really wrong. I let Licia lead the way as I let my mind wander. Licia stops suddenly and thrusts her arm out in front of me, stopping me in my tracks. I'm about to ask her what the sudden stop is for when she presses a finger to her lips in a shushing manner. I roll my eyes and whisper my question. What's going on? Over there by the fountain. I look over her shoulder and take a quick look at the area. It only takes me a second to spot Renee standing by the fountain. She looks like she's waiting for someone. It's Renee. So what? She does have the day off, and the last time I checked, she is allowed to spend it in town, so I don't see what's so surprising. It's not really surprising, it's just, I have to see who it is, Marcel. I just have to. Okay, back up. What are you talking about? Renee told me she was taking the day off so that she could meet up with a friend, but she wouldn't give me any details. That means that it's that kind of friend, right? I know it's snooping, but I can't help it. I have to know what kind of manly stud she is seeing behind my back. Licia, we don't really have time for this. Just a few minutes, please. I'm not asking for that many. Just enough to see who she's meeting. Come on, Marcel, have mercy. Ugh, she'll be mopey for the rest of the day if I don't agree to it. I let out a sigh. I really shouldn't be agreeing to this, but whatever. Fine. Just a few minutes, though, if her friend doesn't show up. As I'm saying it, a familiar figure strides over to Renee. Is it Lord Sheeran? Oh. Borges? Huh? Licia turns to see what I'm seeing, and then the both of us exchange a baffled look. That's not who I would have expected. That's not who I would have expected. Me neither. I didn't get the impression they knew each other well. They don't, or at least they pretend they don't. They hardly even exchange pleasantries whenever they run into each other at Lord Sandor's place. Then, they're really good at keeping their love affair a secret. I don't know, I can't really wrap my head around the idea that they might be lovers. It's the only explanation, though. No, it's not. The only actual facts we have are that Renee wouldn't tell you who she was meeting, and that she's currently meeting up with Borges. Licia crosses her arms and frowns. Well, okay, maybe, but it's not like there's a better explanation, is there? I take a minute to think it over. Renee is meeting Borges and she didn't tell Licia. Let's see. Actually, one other theory pops into mind. You don't think that Renee is sick or something, do you? Maybe she's been seeing Dr. Borges in secret because she doesn't want to be worried. She doesn't want to worry you. Licia's eyes go wide as her face grows pale. But, no way, she'd tell me if it was something like that. She would. Licia looks like she's about to burst into tears, and now I feel horrible for bringing the possibility up. I should have just kept my mouth shut. That was the first thing that came to my mind. That doesn't mean that that is what's going on. But you don't know that it isn't. I look back towards Renee and Borges, trying to come up with a new theory, or at least some scrap of evidence that would prove my former one less likely. I can't tell what they're talking about, but they're both smiling and looking like they're enjoying each other's company. That's enough. If Renee was sick, I don't think she'd be smiling like that. The conversations would be a lot more serious. So I was wrong, okay? I'm sorry. I just said the first thing that popped into my head. You mean it? Yeah, I mean it. Take a look for yourself. Licia takes a minute to look them over and then nods to herself, regaining her former confidence. You have a point. My theory looks way more likely if you take the way they're talking to each other into account. She chews her bottom lip and she mulls the idea over. Once she's had a moment, she groans and pulls at her hair in a frustrated manner. But it still doesn't make sense. I mean, Renee wouldn't go out with anyone unless they were at least as muscular as Kamal. Really? That's kind of a high bar. Yeah, but that's how she is. She's my best friend and I love her, but goodness, she has particular tastes. And Borges is so sweet and kind. Renee is more interested in seeing people torn down in the arena than seeing them get better. She may not look like it, but she's ruthless and bloodthirsty. Geez, I sound like a horrible friend right now, don't I? A little. Licia laughs. I know I said I just wanted to see who it was, but... She looks at me with pleading eyes. She doesn't even have to say the rest for me to know she wants to keep following them. You want to spy on your friend? Oh, Licia. No, I really do not. Actually, I'm kind of curious too. Oh, Marcel! Come on, give these people a privacy, please. Then we stalk them until we get to the bottom of this mystery. Guys, it's none of your business. This is... What are you doing? It's none of your business. Oh my gosh. Right, do me a favor though, and don't put it that way. It makes it sound creepy. Yeah, because it is creepy. It sounds creepy because it is creepy, Marcel. Why do we not have the I really wish this game gave us more choices to not do things. Choices to do things or not do things. So that is one big major criticism I have in this game, that it needs to have more. I think it needs to have more choices to not do things. Right, oh, fearless leader. I'm the leader now, huh? I guess that's just a fancy way of saying if we're caught, it was your idea. Whatever. I look back to see that Renee and Borges have started to move. The disturbing part is they're headed our direction. Licia and I duck around the corner and try not to look suspicious as two of them pass by. Luckily, they're too preoccupied with their conversation to notice us. We should probably start seriously considering talking to our parents about the engagement. Well, I guess that's just... Alright.
You're right. I know you're right. I just keep putting it off because I know they're going to react badly.
Believe me, I understand. I can't imagine my parents will be any happier. Before we can hear any more, the two are out of earshot. Licia turns to me, wide-eyed.
Did you hear that?
I did.
So they're really engaged?
That's what it sounds like. Licia scrunches her face up, seemingly thinking this over. I can tell from her expression alone that things aren't adding up for her. When she notices me staring at her, she snaps at me.
What are you looking at me like that for? You should be surprised too.
I am surprised.
Then why don't you look like it?
Well, they're both adults. If they want to get married, that's their choice. It has nothing to do with us.
You're way too calm about this.
I mean... They want to get married. Like, I don't understand. I may sound calm, but I'm actually a bit unsettled. There is something bothering me about seeing those two as a couple. Licia grumbled something about me making her look immature. I think she is being very immature right now, actually, and looks me in the eye with a determined expression on her face.
Alright, new plan. You're going to go over there and confront them.
Oh my goodness. You're being very immature right now, Licia. Me? It's your idea. Why me?
Because Renee wasn't willing to tell me anything, remember?
Then you should respect her privacy, Licia. If she didn't want to tell you, that's probably a very good reason for you not to encroach in her privacy. She might be willing to say something to you since you're less likely to tease her about it. Licia is starting to go down for me. I'm starting to, like, get a little, you know... She's starting to grind my gears a little bit.
Besides, Borges seemed to think highly of you.
I don't want to get involved in rumors.
What?
Licia grins. She's probably getting the wrong idea from my startled expression. How else was I supposed to respond, though? I bop her lightly on the head. Don't get carried away.
I wasn't. Okay, maybe I was. But my point stands. Borges said some really nice things about you when I talked to him last time. I thought he might... Well, if he's really engaged to Renee, I guess I was wrong, but... Anyway, I'm rambling and they're getting away. Are you going to go over there or not? I'd take a second to think it over before coming up with a compromise. Alright, I'll go to them. Again, that should have been a choice. That really should have been a choice game. Alright, I'll go talk to them. But in exchange, you have to go collect all the things we were sent to get in the first place. Oh, good thinking. I can do that. You can get the information, and we can both get back in time to avoid getting into trouble. So you admit that we're getting into trouble. Exactly. Marcel, you're just as bad as her. Alright, that's the plan. Good luck, Marcel. She nods determinedly and then hurries off, leaving me alone. I said I'd approach them and I will, but confronting them and demanding answers like an interrogator isn't something I'm ready to do because it's none of our business. Licia will just have to be satisfied with what information I can get subtly. I head in the direction of Borges and Renee were walking when we last saw them. It doesn't take long for me to spot them and I begin wondering how I should do this. I don't have to wonder long, since Renee happens to turn my way. She smiles when she sees me and waves. Hey, Marcel. Hey, Renee. Borges. Borges gives me a nod as I go ahead and approach them. No, Licia? It's like they saw us. No, she wandered off somewhere. I was actually in the middle of looking for her. I think that's a plausible lie. She does that. I wouldn't worry too much. She always makes it back to Lord Sanders eventually. Apparently it's more plausible than I thought. It's probably a good thing. I'd have never heard the end of it if she caught me with Borges. It's kind of weird seeing you two together. Yes, I imagine it is. Yes, I imagine it is.
We don't spend a lot of time together at Lord Sandra's mansion, do we? Not that I've noticed. Well, that's because Renee and I are trying to keep things professional when we're working. So that means outside of work I can't even finish that statement. I just know I'm being way too direct. Outside of work, we're just friends. Yep, there's nothing particularly interesting going on between us. Kinda disappointing, huh? Just friends, huh? They sound like they're being honest with me, but if I believe what they're saying, that kinda conflicts with what Licia and I overheard earlier. I mean, there are reasons besides love to get engaged, but it's still not making sense to me. How... I stopped myself struggling with how I want to word my next sentence. I don't want to come off as rude, but I'm not really sure how to get around it. I sighed and just asked the question. How did you even become friends? It doesn't seem like the two of you have a lot in common. That's because we don't. We're only friends because of our parents. Oh, they were betrothed. Your parents? Our parents are friends, so it's only natural they'd want their children to be friends too. Because of that, Renee and I were forced to interact with each other all the time when we were kids. It worked out in the end. The two of us had a rough start. You can say that again. This guy got bullied all the time as a kid. I always had to come to his rescue, and it was a bit annoying to be frank. I appreciated it. Of course, I would appreciate it more if you didn't actually turn around and bully me yourself. Borges says with an amused smile as Renee blushes a bit in embarrassment. That's not my fault. You didn't exactly make it hard, you know. I mean, you never stuck up for yourself, and you were always separating yourself from the other kids. It's Borges' turn to feel awkward. He frowns and takes a defensive tone. Well, they didn't really want me in there in the first place, so I thought it'd be better to go read or something. Renee pulls Borges into a headlock. It's done in a playful manner, but Renee's old bullying habit is definitely showing. And that's exactly why you didn't have any friends besides me. Gah, Renee, stop that. As they continue bickering, I go over information I've just learned. They're childhood friends, and they do seem to get along better than I thought they did. Still, it's definitely not a perfect match. That aside, if their parents wanted them to be friends in the first place, why would they be opposed to an engagement? Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. Maybe instead of establishing an engagement, they were talking about breaking off one. Or maybe by engagement they mean something else, a different kind of engagement. That might actually make more sense. Of course, there are probably plenty of other possibilities I'm not thinking of. I need to be careful about making assumptions that may or may not be true. Oh, Marcel, I almost forgot. Huh? I snapped to attention, hoping I didn't miss anything important. It seems Renee let Borges go sometime while I was thinking. I was actually going to send this back with Renee, but since you're here, I might as well give it to you directly. Borges offers me a book. It takes me a minute to figure out why. I'd honestly forgotten that he'd mentioned something about a book last time. I take it from him and look it over. It's pretty torn down, and there are several bookmarks hidden away between its pages. The book has seen a lot of use. This is the one you were talking about? It is. I finally managed to find it. Anyway, it helped me out when I was starting out. I hope you find it just as helpful. Thanks, Borges. I'll take good care of it. No problem. Is Marcel planning on becoming your assistant or something? I was wondering what the deal with the book was. Oh, that. I cut Borges off with the first excuse that comes to mind. Borges might not have actually said anything, but I don't want to risk him telling her that I'm trying to help Lord Sandor. Yes, that's exactly it. I want to be Borges' assistant. I was just looking for something to read. You were looking for something to read? Renee sounds skeptical. I can't blame her. Well, yeah, I was in the library the other day, and I ended up borrowing a medical book from the library. There were some things I didn't understand, though, so Borges recommended this book instead. So let me get this straight. You were reading a medical book? For fun? Well, yeah. Gross. You're just as weird as Borges. I'm weird? Of course you're weird. What about me is weird? Well, for starters, how about everything? I like Renee. I think I like Renee a little bit more than Licia. It looks like they're planning on bickering some more. I should probably excuse myself before I have to listen to the whole exchange. I think I should probably get going. And that's right. You still have stuff to do. Get going before you're forced to endure one of Vincent's lectures. Renee hurries me along, but I do manage to take a quick goodbye, to say a quick goodbye to Borges before heading back towards Lord Sandor's mansion. I don't have a lot of information for Licia, but I can tell her that Borges and Renee have known each other since they were kids. That should be interesting enough to keep her satisfied. I just hope she got everything we needed. Okay. Now, since management was the big thing, we need to bump up our education and our charisma. So, shelve books, charm bookkeepers. Shelve books, charm bookkeepers. Shelve books, charm bookkeepers. Shelve books, just because I don't know what the next test is going to be. The problem is I don't know if I'm going to hit it by the time we get to the next check. Did we finish everything? Kamal looks over the garden for a minute to determine if we missed anything before answering. Seems like it. I guess that leaves us with some free time then. How would you like to spend your free time, Kamal? Yup. Kamal wanders off without another word. Before I have time to wonder what he's doing, he comes back with 2 wooden swords. What do you think? Are you up for a lesson? Oh, he's teaching me how to handle a sword. That sounds great, actually. He smiles and hands over one of the swords. I look over it for a second, and then it tests its weight. It's not too bad, but I imagine a real sword would be heavier. Did you go out and buy these after last time? I did. How much? I'll pay you back for mine. Wait. I did. How much? I'll pay you back for mine. Don't worry about it. You sure? Yeah. Having a sparring partner will be good for me, too. Assuming you actually get good, of course. Oh, it's on now. You better watch out, Kamal. Before you know it, I'll be better than you. Kamal laughs. That's the spirit. He ruffles my hair and then steps past me. I follow him over to the grassy patch of the garden that Kamal uses to practice. Right, so I should probably start by saying that even if you do become a great warrior, that doesn't mean you're invincible. That should be common sense, but a lot of people I've met get swelled egos and start to think they're unstoppable after a few good fights. It's usually around that time that someone poisons their drink or slits their throat while they're sleeping. Okay, I can safely say that's not how I expected the lesson to start. Fair fights can be exciting, but I can guarantee you that few and far between. Most conflicts aren't actually going to come down to a straightforward sword fight. So I guess what I'm saying is that you shouldn't rely solely on your skills as a warrior. That's actually pretty practical advice. If you can solve a problem without engaging an enemy directly, that's generally the better way to do something. That's kind of really deep and wise. I'm impressed, Kamal. Since you're not planning on fighting for sport or money, your objective should always be keeping yourself alive, no matter how crude or shady the method. Understand? Yeah. I feel a little silly now. When I suggested taking lessons from Kamal, I wasn't really thinking about the bigger picture. I was treating forward sword fighting like a hobby. Like what Kamal said kind of puts it into perspective. Even if I'm only learning for fun, I am learning something that can potentially help me, if I use it right. And using it in the right situations is exactly what Kamal is trying to warn me about. I have to say, I respect him a little more knowing that he differentiates between battles. Some people might think that means he has no honor, but I think that Kamal just knows that it has its place. Honor doesn't do much for you if you're dead. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's get started. Kamal readies his sword without giving me any commands. I assume I'm supposed to do the same. Let's see. What did he tell those kids last time? Keep the hilt level with the bottom of your torso and the tip level with your head. I think that's it. I move the sword into position automatically. I see you were paying attention. Kind of. That might be the extent of what I remember, though. That's fine. You don't need to remember everything right away. Try relaxing a bit. Your stance is too stiff right now. Your elbows and knees should be bent a bit. It might not sound like a big deal, but it'll improve your reaction time. Okay. I nod and take a deep breath. I do as Kamal says and then await his next directions. Better. Try spreading your feet a bit. Maintaining a good balance is key. It'll make your movements more fluid, and if you're able to keep yourself grounded, your attacks will have more impact. Ideally, you'll slide from side to side instead of taking steps. Think you've got all that? Yeah, easy. Getting a little cocky, huh? Anyway, there are a few more things to take into account before you even swing your sword. For instance, where are we fighting? In the garden? I hope that wasn't some sort of trick question. Right, and what is under your feet? Grass? Exactly. Where you fight can be just as important as how you fight. Yeah, the environment is important. If you were standing on sand, you'd have to account for the way it'll shift under your feet. If you're outnumbered, you can limit how many opponents can come after you at once by fighting in a narrow space. Making use of your environment can give you an advantage when you might not otherwise have one. I nod. You'll want to be aware of your opponent as well. Don't let anyone intimidate you. Different shapes and sizes just mean that a person has a different set of advantages and disadvantages. This is all really practical stuff, Kamal. This is really impressive. For instance, if they're tall, they'll be able to reach farther. In that case, take the battle in closer to them to avoid letting them use that reach. Also, their legs are usually more exposed. Take advantage of that. Beyond physical appearances, you can take into account their behavior. For instance, you might be able to judge how experienced a person is by the way they hold their weapon.
There's a very key difference between observing an opponent and observing your environment, however. A person can lie to you. I know what I'm doing with the sword, but I can easily pretend I don't by holding it wrong. Someone could see that and think they'd have an advantage in a fight against me. That false information could lead them into making a move that I can take advantage of. The same goes for expressions. When your eyes wander, where your eyes wander can tell your opponent what you're about to do or mislead him depending on how you use them. It's generally advisable to keep your face expressionless to make it hard to read. That's easier said than done, but with practice I'm sure you'll get the hang of it. This is really, like, it makes a lot of sense. These are a lot of things I didn't even think about when it comes to, like, combat. Anyway, I think that's all I needed to let you know up front. If you think you've got all that, we're ready. If you think you've got all that, we're ready to get into the fun stuff. Just observe, right? Huh, yeah. Oh, I've been observing, Kamal. I've definitely been observing. I guess I went into a Vincent-length speech for nothing, and that's all I had to say to get you to understand. That might be what it ultimately came down to, but there was actually a lot of good information in there and I hadn't really considered. I mean, I kind of had the impression I'd just be learning secret sword techniques, to be honest. You'd be surprised how little that there actually is. But don't worry, before I'm done with you, you'll have at least a couple at your disposal. Now go ahead and try a strike. I nod and then swing my sword straight forward. Kamal meets it easily. Again! I switch up the strike, this time coming from the side. Kamal continues blocking and encourages me to keep up the strikes. When he sees something wrong, he gives me a quick piece of advice and asks me to keep going. Soon enough, we have a good flow going. We keep going like that for a minute before Kamal suddenly changes it up. He takes a quick swing and I block it without thinking. Good, you have good instincts. Instead of returning to the previously established pace, he moves faster. I have less time to think as I go on the defensive. Relax, don't get overwhelmed or you'll miss an opening. That's right, I can't just defend. In a real fight, if I want to win, I've got to attack too. Think, Marcel, think. How do I get Kamal to mess up? I meet Kamal's sword with mine and suddenly an idea occurs to me. I can try to trick him. Of course, he's so experienced he'd probably see right through me. I bite my lip, wondering if I should bother trying. This defense thing is working alright for me. Maybe I shouldn't change it up just yet. No, try to force an opening. The whole point is I have to try, right? And if I fail, hey, this is what the training is for. I'm gonna try to force an opening. No, I have to try to be aggressive too. I'm gonna go for it. I mean, trying out things is what practice is for, right? Besides, what I have in mind will only work now because Kamal assumes I will make mistakes since I'm so new to this. He strikes and I block, but this time I give a little. I let my eyes become wide and pretend that I'm caught off guard, seemingly giving Kamal the opening he needs. To my surprise, he really goes for it. Watch your express. As he's trying to advise me, I step out of his attack way and swing. Kamal reacts quickly, but not quickly enough to avoid my strike completely. I graze his arm and my eyes go wide in real surprise this time. I can't believe I actually hit him! I know it wouldn't have been a fatal strike or even a good one, but I actually hit him! Before I can get too carried away by my excitement, Kamal recovers and strikes my side. He slows down his hit before it makes contact so it doesn't hurt or anything, but it's clear that the implication is that I would be dead in a real fight. Don't get distracted. The fight wasn't over just because you got me in the arm. I sigh, a bit disappointed in myself. Yeah, I messed that up. Ooh! Kamal! Nice! Kamal drops his serious expression and breaks into a smile. But the move before that was impressive. You made me underestimate you and created an opening. Looks like that lecture wasn't for nothing after all. I blush a bit in the compliment. Still, I don't think that will work again. I'll definitely remember to take you seriously next time. Yeah, that's the only thing. You had that one chance. Next time, huh? Does that mean we're done for the day? Yeah, let's call it there. We've made a good progress. I'll hold on to the swords if you don't care. I nod and hand over mine. It'll be easier if they're in the same spot. Kamal turns to go and put them away before stopping and makes one last comment. You know, I have a feeling you're going to be a fast learner. That simple comment makes me prouder than I probably should be. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, charm those shopkeepers. Education. I knock on the door to Lord Chiron's room. Today I am in charge of cleaning it. This was another job I asked Vincent for. He looked at me like I was crazy when I made the request, but this time I have a game plan I'm hoping will work. If I keep him occupied with questions, he won't get bored and cause trouble. At least that's what I'm hoping. I take a deep breath and stare down at the door for another second before the Lord Chiron answers it.
That's interesting. I never thought Vincent would make you clean my room. You must have made him mad or something. Actually, I asked for the job. Lord Sharon looks genuinely surprised. I thought about it and decided that no one else should have to deal with you. So you're making a noble sacrifice, is that it? Something like that. Now if you let me in, I'll get started. Be my guest. Lord Sharon steps aside, clearing the way. I step in his room and take a minute to look at my surroundings before deciding to start by dusting off the dresser. While I'm working, I ask the first question that comes to mind. So, you're from Grandtree? Lord Sharon cocks an eyebrow. I guess the question kind of came out of nowhere. And the answer is so obvious, I must seem stupid for even asking. Yes? Well, he answered, that's something. Of course, if I'm going to fully distract him, I'll have to ask questions that have more than one word answers. What's it like? There are a lot of trees. That's really all you have to say about your home? It's very green. Okay, now I want to hit him. It was a serious question. Was it? Yes. Okay, so maybe it wasn't a serious question when I asked it, but I do have a genuine interest in the answer. Grandtree is a place I'd actually like to know more about. I've read up on it a bit, but there aren't a lot of great references that I can get my hands on, since humans aren't exactly welcome there. I was kind of hoping you'd be able to fill in some of the details. I see. Lord Sharon goes quiet and thinks it over for a moment before speaking up again. I guess it wouldn't hurt to try explaining some things. Just don't expect anything particularly poetic. Do you not like Grandtree? It's not that. Grandtree is nice, it's just, how to put it? It feels a bit stifling. Not quite right. Stagnant? That's not quite right. Stagnant? Stagnant might be a better word for it. The place itself is pretty tranquil. Days kind of just pass uneventfully. The people there don't really concern themselves with outside problems. So while it's peaceful, it feels isolated. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And I guess it doesn't really tell you much. Sorry. It tells me quite a bit, actually. There might be more information about you in there than Grandtree, though. Is that so? Yeah. From his description, I mainly get a sense of loneliness. Of course, if I bring that up, I'm practically asking him to make some kind of move on me. For now, I'll just focus on the other trait that I was able to pick up from his words. You're kind of restless, aren't you? Staying in one place for too long drives you crazy, right? It depends. If there's enough to keep me distracted, it's not so bad. But yeah, I guess you're right. There aren't many places where I feel like staying for an extended period of time. This mansion used to be one of the exceptions. Lord Sharon falls into a contemplative silence for a moment before smiling. What strikes me as odd about the smile is that it even seems more honest and less malicious than his usual one. You know, Lord Sander was the first person to call me out on my behavior. But before that, everyone would either suck up to me because of my title or hate me because I'm an elf. But Lord Sander, once he got a good idea of what I was like, he told me to my face that I was a nasty piece of work. Lord Sharon laughs happily. The comment isn't exactly something I'd get excited over, but I guess if you're used to being treated one way or the other, based on things you can't help, getting a response tailored to your actual character might be refreshing. Even if it is negative. I pointed out that he was a grumpy old man and we've been friends ever since. He can be pretty mean, but he's never actually told me that I bother him. He's always willing to talk to me too, and if I ever need a place to stay, I'm always welcome there. Do you? I know I shouldn't ask, but the question pops out of my mouth before I find the common sense to stop myself. Are you in love with Lord Sandor? Lord Sharon looks at me with a stunned expression on his face. After a moment, a slight blush even starts to creep into his cheeks. That is an interesting reaction. Maybe I should feel a bit guilty for putting him in such an awkward position, but my brain is thinking more along the lines of, ha! This is revenge for all the times you made me look stupid, you bee. That's quite the question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. No, I want him to answer the question. I'd stop there if I felt being sensitive, but since it's Lord Chiron, I continue down a dark and perhaps evil path. But if you don't answer it, I'm just going to have to assume that you are. Lord Chiron responds by pinching in my ear. You're being a brat. He lets go and then crosses his arms. Do not touch me, Lord Chiron. He looks like he's thinking something over. Finally he decides on his reply. I don't know. Fair enough. If Lord Sander said he was interested in me, I'd think I'd actually go for it. But it actually didn't even occur to me until you mentioned it, so I'm not sure what that means. He looks at me as if I'm supposed to clarify it for him. It's not like I have any more answers than he does. I mean, his reaction is kind of weird, isn't it? If you're in love with someone, you're supposed to just know it, right?